Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon Over Baseball with your host Bob and co-host Jeff and Matt. Say hello, everybody.
Yo,
How's it going?
We have finished the AL Central, and I hope everyone liked it. I know we had a bunch of good feedback with some criticisms and stuff like that, which is great, so we can hopefully improve and make this better for everyone else. Speaking of, someone did comment, which I asked people to do, and there was a person that said they wanted the next team. And the next team we have is the Braves.
that makes sense that's that.
Oh,
right.
for sure. Chop on, Braves. Chop on. I love it. I know they were saying that was like pretty like, racist or whatever, but I love it. I think it's a pretty sweet thing, and it's definitely. No, I think the Wahoo is way more racist than that.
Oh no, I think the Braves are fine. I think they can do it in a a right way. I think the Indians until recently, have done it in an okay way, but the Brave stuff is totally fine to me.
I'm all about the Braves. Chop on. I'm loving the Braves right now with Acuna and stuff like that. I think they're sweet, but this one, we do get to talk about the 1999 Braves, which finished with 100 wins and had a crazy good team.
They were
another good young center fielder.
Yeah.
Right. They were the best team in the set, just based on points.
Oh, really?
Right. So they were, if I'm looking it up right now, but I'm almost certain they were number one. They were well above I think if I said the average was like about 4,000 or so, including the whole team, or including pennant run. And the Braves were 5,300. So 5,320. So they were pretty good. I think there was a lot going on there.
Yeah, they have just an amazing pitching staff, great closer, and then, some power bats. And we'll get to those as we break this down. Right. So first up, we have Mr. Bret Boone.
Yeah, I don't know where the 190's from, but he's fine.
Yeah, I mean the six
double range.
6 is rough. Yeah, big chart.
Yeah, he had 38 doubles that year, so that helps.
I feel like he's definitely chop-oning in this photo with his left hand.
He is going, man. He's I love the action pick. This is a great pick.
It just sucks to get only +2 out of a second baseman because, we were talking about earlier, those like +5s is like where you make up on defense, and to average out here, you really need to get a good shortstop or third baseman.
Right.
And something interesting with Boone, other than like in 2000 when he went to San Diego, from 98 until 2004, he had 30 doubles every season.
Wow.
I don't know what happened in San Diego. in San Diego, he had 18. He still had 500 plus plate appearances.
San Diego, isn't that a big pitcher-friendly park too? I thought they used to say that.
I don't know if they got a new stadium since then or what. I remember hearing it, but still, it's only have 18, and his homers didn't go up or anything either. So and he had a better on base percent. So who knows?
Right. I just look at this card, and like we've always talked about, like you got to be, when you're spending points on anything, right, in that type of draft or team building or whatever, like you've got to be spending it on a couple different things at least. You're spending this on one thing, and you're spending this on the chart, and I just like, if I know that like there's a lot of things that build up to get to that 190, but it feels like a majority of that is the chart, and it's just I'm never gonna do that here. I'm never gonna spend that money.
Nope. Yeah, I don't really like
for
him.
a 6.
Next up, Big Tom Glavine.
Ooh.
Yeah. I actually love this pick or this card a lot. I've had him on my team because of the no doubles. He actually did not do well for me in the season, but my guess is just because it was the control 4. But the 7 IP is awesome. No doubles here. Just a solid card.
It's their 4th best starter. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's I feel like that's my dream line, my dream pitching. No, I mean, I'm with you, Bob. Like I would be picking this guy too, but I think that 17 to 20 single range can be, it's deceivingly bad.
Because that's actually what hurt me, because we're talking about like Brad Radke last time, having that 16 out is so much better. Even if Radke was like a 6-inning guy, I mean, that's what I want.
Right, and not only that, but just like if you had a guy like I'm trying to remember who I had, but I mean a lot. There's a lot of pitchers out there that are more of like 18, maybe 17 to 18 walk, 19, 20 double or single, and you'd be surprised at how kind of you can manage the damage with that when one of the two things that happens as a walk or one of the many things that happens as a walk. It's not as bad run wise, but when you're giving single after single after single, it doesn't feel like the damage is starting. And I know it's better than double. I will always be better than a double. That's just how it works. But that single range can really creep up on you.
It happened to me. I mean, just having that 25% of the time something's happening is really rough. Now, again, you got the 4 guys, so you're going to get it most of the time. You're mostly going to get it out. But I've had this happen multiple times. Like you said, guys on second base or first base, and a single just keeps moving around the bases.
Right. It never feels like it's ending.
I think that was an interesting thing from I think it was one of our podcasts where I just said like walks are better, which is the opposite of what you want in real baseball. And then in our Discord the next day, everybody had like new rules, like, oh, if your guy gives up 3 walks, like he goes down an IP or something to like balance that out.
Clutch has something like that where it's like I think it's like walks and or runs. They have like a separate thing. I don't have their score sheet in front of me, but I used to have it. It was really cool, and they had that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. It's something to look at later down the road, just because a walk will run up the pitcher's pitch count, and they'll get tired quicker. That's exactly my
thought. That's we had talked about changing the IP at one point to batters faced. But it would be so hard to keep track of. But something as simple as you had 4 walks, that's an IP down. That starts to get into a rough category.
Yeah.
So next up, we have Jose Hernandez. I mean, this is an unflattering picture for sure.
Yeah, no, that's not. He's like probably getting the out, but yeah, he just doesn't. It doesn't look good. But
he's definitely
fine.
Exerting himself, but he looks kind of scared.
Right, he looks like he knows he's not making the throw or not getting the out, but he still has to throw it because he's already in the motion. No, but yeah, no. There's also not for 230. There's just not a ton to write home about this one.
No,
the on base 7 is okay. We've talked about in the past how with so many damn good pitchers in this set. I just think 7s don't survive as much in the 2000 set, and that's why it's like I'd rather just get a garbage below 100 guy and then go cash in the rest to go get a solid 9 or something. But
I'm not really tough. On board with this guy.
Right. So yeah.
Next up, Brian Hunter, and this guy does see a lot of play.
Right, the +1. I mean, okay, so I'll say my quick theory on +1s that I've changed over the time. Peter convinced me that, El Presidente changed my opinion on this. I always used to be valuing these first place +1s. I just thought that they're so rare. You don't see many of them, and it's just the fact that you can get any is just a great thing. And especially ones like Olerud and, even Brian Hunter who can actually hit is great. I think what eventually connected the dots on me is a couple different things. There's one, like Peter said, infield defense doesn't matter as much as you think it does. And the second part of that is, and it kind of ties directly into this, is that a first base +1 is the same thing as having a first base +0, and maybe your second baseman goes from a +4 down to a +3 and vice versa.
Yeah.
I've always kind of thought that, like, if we're going to have, first base, like, defense is going to matter, then yeah, a +2 makes sense. But like, I've also changed my opinion on, like, Josh Bell in the 2019 or 2018 set is a -1. Go get a -1 Josh Bell, who's actually pretty cool and hits really well, and then go get a crazy good shortstop. Yep. It's a balancing act all the time, but I've changed my tune on the +1. So
yeah, and it also depends on the rules of your league. My league just put in the error rule, so now like you have to roll with your infield plus the roll 10 or higher, and or above it. Yeah, it was 10 or higher, and then the outfield 5 or higher. Right. And so if you're playing certain rules, you got to find those positions. Other than that, you could like literally punt on infield and probably get away with it. But for an 8 here, pretty solid for 220. You get the +1, decent chart. Doubles. The sucky part here is the C speed. I mean, he's just kind of slow.
Yeah, and he walks like crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's why you should like him.
But I'm lying through my teeth. No, the double at 16. I mean, I'm into this card, or everything except the speed C, and I think it's so funny. Like, Jose Hernandez is more than Brian Hunter, which is just kind of a wild thing to think about. Like, there's just so many things that are working for Brian Hunter's card, and so many things that are not working for Jose Hernandez.
Yep.
Yeah, so is that the B speed and the defense had to have kicked him up because it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yep.
Right.
Or I guess it's more hits than walks probably too, but
yeah, I just and this is kind of maybe they were valuing I'm curious to know how much they actually value defense, in terms of the points. Was a +0 first, with a first baseman with +1, which was pretty rare in those sets. It seems like they weren't really weighting that many points to that. Whereas I think that in a way they could have, I'm thinking of all the other traps that I feel like these card designers kind of fell into, like the closer bonus and things like that. And they just overweighted some stuff and not. This one, it seems like the first base +1 didn't get that, which is interesting. Whereas, Hernandez and his +3 arm from shortstop is fine. It's nothing amazing, but he got the points for it.
Well, there was strategy cards that would double your infield or something, or add 5, or I forget what they all did, but they would do things. So the higher or lower your infield could help you. So I don't know.
Right.
Next up, big bad Andrew Jones. Absolute monster of a card.
Oh, this is the very beginning, right before he starts to take off.
Really?
Because he had to be really young in '99.
This card is just so bonkers.
Well, I know he had 26 homers and 84 RBIs, but he's a beast.
Yes, so he was 22 in 1999.
So didn't he start when he was 19?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Wow. But his chart is monstrous. I mean, he's got 14 at single plus. He can play all the positions in the outfield. Amazing. He's an A speed 8. And I actually don't think 390 is too high for this player. And I've seen him drafted almost every time.
Right, not for a center field +3. Doesn't this feel eerily similar to Acuna's rookie card in the his 2018 card? I feel in a lot of ways there's just so many weird similarities. His outfield,
outfield was bad for Acuna. I thought
it was bad at first, but that chart and that he had a lower on base and that speed was fast, and it's just kind of funny to see that come back around some 20 years later.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got drafted in so many of our. Well, I know my cousin loves Andrew Jones, so he always picks him up. But I mean, he just fills that position. We were talking about just defense a little bit ago. When you might have hurt yourself by grabbing a +0 somewhere, this is where you can start to make it up, and you might need to make it up.
I don't think there's any way in our leagues with us weighting outfield defense, which I do as well. Center field +3s just get taken all the time. They're just so valuable, and that's why I'm with you that I don't even think 390 is a good representative salary for this guy, just because I feel that is just so you could draft us. I would be drafting a center field +3 guy if he did nothing else, just because I think that's important.
Yes.
But the fact that he's fast, has a decent on base, and then his chart is pretty wild. I think there's a lot of good things there for less than 400 points.
Yes, I think he's super draftable, super talented. There's no downside of this card.
Do any of you guys have the error card, the diamond one where you got a 10 on base, same chart?
No,
what?
I do not have that.
I don't have it either.
I've heard about that.
It's one of the promo cards that they gave out in the leagues, and it was an error, and he has a 10 on base. It's the same exact card, but it's a 10 on base.
Oh, that's the best value ever.
And so people would use it in leagues, and it's if you didn't have rules against that,
wow,
because the one league I played in, it was all younger kids, and I remember somebody had this card. I'm like, how come mine's 8, his is a 10? I didn't have the internet at the time to go on and be like, oh, this is an error. He was perfectly fine to be used in our league, and so was Guzman and guys that you had no clue were an error when you're 10 years old.
Wow, that's wild. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's a
that's
crazy
one of the
card.
promos I don't have. Next up, another big bad card is Mr. Chipper Jones.
The I would say the king of this set in a lot of ways, right?
He was MVP.
Cover boy.
Yep. Cover boy. He was the cover. Yeah, he was on this cover of every pack that we ripped open.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, he was MVP. He had 45 homers, 110 RBIs, 319 batting average. Just killed it.
41 doubles.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolute monster. He's a 10 A speed. How many stolen bases did he have?
14 or 25. Sorry.
I mean, what an amazing
25?
season. Yeah.
25.
What?
That's he had 45 homers, 25 stolen bases, bat 320 basically, stud. I mean, he's basically the reason they did so well that year. Well, besides their pitching. But yeah, he crushes the ball. 15 single plus, tons of power in the home run. He's a 10 A speed, and he got great fielding at third. And he's a switch hitter, which in that time when it came out was a big deal because they did have like lefty righty cards you could play.
I feel like I've always kind of felt this way for a while, and it's never really mattered that much to me, but I always kind of felt like the picture could be more flattering if he was going to be the cover photo.
Yeah.
I don't know what his face is doing, but the pose is pretty great.
Yeah.
He's in awe of where he hit it.
Right. Like, where is he looking right now? But it's fine. Like, clearly somebody okayed this. Like, multiple people okayed this to be for him to be the literal cover
We
guy.
make sure we take extra effort when we have like the best player. Like, you got to make sure you find the most epic photo of the guy.
Right, and his 2001 picture is pretty badass. I feel like, and I feel like where he's running, he's trucking, and I don't know. You got to put the best guy on the cover, and that's why they did it. But yeah, maybe could have picked a better picture, but that's fine. But yeah,
I never really used him. I feel like when I was building, like the points were a lot.
Yeah,
because I always tended to roster like Griffey, and I made sure I had Pedro. So like those two, that's 1,000 of my points right there.
Right, and that's like I'm just think that like Chipper is so great. Like there's nothing here that's bad. I think the only thing I would want is like maybe like a bigger double range or something.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that for 6'10", it's like, oh boy, like I could go get a 450 pointer. I get myself.
I always did was I drafted Tatis. And so he's roughly the same. He has one more out and one less third base, but he's 40 points less.
Yeah, he's in the 500s range. He's I think he is 570.
570,
right?
570.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I hate to pick between them, but like even if I didn't even know the points, I'd probably be picking Tatis. So
I always remember like when I think back of the teams I built, Bill Mueller and Jeff Cirillo were like my third base.
Oh yeah, Jeff Cirillo's great. He's a 10 also.
The pennant run one, I think.
Yeah,
the Rockies.
The Rockies one. Both of them are 10s.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's what you got to look at. He's pretty expensive, but he's got a lot of things going for him.
And with the speed A lot of times that 5 walk can be a double basically.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Next up, Brian Jordan, another monster of a card here. He actually did very well that season as well, with 115 RBIs and 23 homers, but only gets the 8 here. +1 outfield, speed B. I've actually played this guy a couple times because he's not that expensive and he has a pretty decent chart.
Right. It's a weird chart though.
Yeah.
I mean, and 1 to 5 out is not great. I'm just like, I guess I'm not feeling the value, or like not even value. I'm just not even seeing like where the 300 points is kind of used here. It seems like it's pretty much the on base, and then like have a decent chart alongside it.
Yeah.
So
I've used him. He's been solid. I mean, I had him on one of my teams when I was a kid.
Right.
Next up, Ryan Klesko.
Ooh, look at oh my God, look at that handlebar.
Oh yeah.
That is a hell of a picture.
He's got a better card in his pennant run version, but this card is a pretty strong card. So for 410, you get the extra on base and power, big double range. So this card gets drafted up a lot too. And he's got the B speed here. This is your technical first baseman for them.
Right.
I mean, he almost batted 300. He also had 20 home runs He had 21, 80 RBIs. I mean, they had five guys with 20 or more home runs. So they did a pretty solid team.
Right now, this guy's. I mean, he's done like I'm trying to think like I'm trying to remember his 01 card, but I've never played with this card. I don't think I've ever seen this card before, to be honest.
I always draft the pennant run version, but it's 500 points.
Oh, that's okay. That's it. That's
the
what
bonus here is you get the dual positions, but
yeah.
So
next up, Keith Lockhart. See, this actually feels better than what's his face, the Bret Boone.
Oh yeah,
right, for sure. Like
I'd rather pay 120 and get a good second base fielding here and just punt on the hitting, but it's not even that bad because you got the 7 on base.
Right, I'm not like that's the thing is that like he is 70 points cheaper than Bret Boone, and yet like Keith Lockhart has so many more things going for him than Bret Boone does. It's their same speed. Lockhart has more defense. He has the better on base. And like, if you like, I'm willing to punt on a good chart if I think that everything else is fine. And like, I'm okay with not getting a home run or a triple or a double. Like as long as this dude can get on base, like especially I'm sure on this team, he was late in the lineup. If you can get
he was the backup. He's the bench player.
So he's a bench player. Like at best case, he's going to be like an 8-9 guy. And if you can get an 8-9 guy on base to like lead into whoever was probably batting first for them, which was probably a stud, like I'm into it.
Boone was their Boone was their second baseman because I'm pretty sure because he had 20 homers, and that's the reason. Whereas this guy had 1 homer, they were probably like, well, we got the power from Boone, but this guy technically hit better on base, had better fielding. This is the kind of guy I think you'd want on your team.
Yeah, I feel like if you're comparing the two, like if you're building a team, either one that you take isn't hitting above 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So I feel like at that point I'd go Lockhart just because it's the back end of your lineup. You're saving points.
Yep.
And you're probably going to see a lot more high controlled pitchers than if you're doing like a team versus team deal.
For sure. I totally agree.
Next up, Mr. Greg Maddux, which is the jersey I'm wearing today. This card comes in the starter set when you buy it. Him and Mr. Cone.
Right. Who doesn't have this card?
Yeah,
right?
Everyone that's played Showdown has this card.
You have to.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like this is the initiation card.
Yeah. So this is a standard, basic 5-7 inning guy. The sucky part is the no walks, and he gives up the single range. So not the best card. I mean, obviously, you'd want like an earlier Maddux than the 1999 season. But I've actually thrown a perfect game with this guy when I played, but it was with the stats or with the strategy cards. So I've never done anything like really good with this card ever after that because I really think I get beat up on the chart.
It's so funny because I'm trying to, of course, always be recruiting people into our weird little community and get more people to play Showdown. And I somehow got two unopened or I got an unopened two-player starter set.
Yep.
And so we just opened those and started playing with those just to like see if my buddy would like it. And it was funny playing with 2 incredibly good pitchers because there was like no hits and like nothing was happening. And like I think the game ended like it's 2-1, which is like it happens. Like not saying it doesn't, but like part of me wanted to like was thinking that if I'm introducing somebody to this game, I kind of want to have like home runs happening left and right in a lot of ways. So I should have just gotten like a control 1 or 2 guy out. But so I always thought it was an interesting call to have. Instead of having like 2 monstrous batters, in that 2-player set, that they decided to have these 2 just shutout starters.
Well, and this was, like I said, this is one of his worst seasons when he played with not the worst, but one of the worst that he played with the Braves with a 3.57 ERA and a 1.3. What's his whip here? 1.345. Yeah, 1.35. 1.345. I mean, the year before he had a 2.22 ERA and a 0.98 whip. I mean,
his 95 season was like Pedro-esque.
95, 1.63 ERA, 0.81 whip. I mean,
yeah, he's insane.
Yeah, 94 was 1.56 ERA. So he's like leading the league in ERA and like innings pitched, the whip, I mean, he's just killing complete games. He threw 4 in 99, but like before that he's 9 the season before, a couple 10s. You know,
Wow.
he was just like the best pitcher. And then this year that he pitched for the Braves, he didn't do. It was probably one of his worst years in that big stretch that he had. You know, especially after he won those 4 Cy Youngs in a row. You know, somehow he didn't really get the accolades in 99. So
Right.
the year after he bounced right back, but he started to slow down at this point. So it just sucks that like, you know, the 2,000 people that played this set didn't get like a true Greg Maddux, because he was just a killer in the 95, 94 season.
Dude, he looks so badass in this picture and this
yeah.
design. This to me, like more than Chipper, is like the 2000s card. Maybe just because everybody has it.
Yeah.
But this pose, this design, it just super works.
And I think, Jeff, to your point about the starter decks, the next year wasn't it Vlad and Erstad?
Yeah, it was, because everybody has that one, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it almost felt like they learned a lot of things going into that, you know, second year, you know, like fixing reliever, you know, amounts and everything. But I feel like somebody said, like, man, I played with the starter set and had no hits. It was an actual baseball game. Like, what's wrong with you? Right. Yeah. Like, and they said, okay, we'll put these guys in and they're super good. And I feel like that was probably a slight reactive move, but hey, I was all about it. I love that Vlad card and I love that Darren Erstad card.
So for the I have this MLB Showdown card box that I have, and on it obviously is Chipper Jones on the front, but then around the sides of it, it's David Cone, Sosa, A-Rod, Jeter, Pedro, and McGuire. It's funny that they didn't have Maddux on here, but they did have Cone.
Right.
Well, I mean, the Yankees did beat him in the World Series, so.
Right.
Next up, Kevin Millwood. This guy placed second, if I'm not mistaken, in the Cy Young. So, another great card.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, I'd be curious to know, like, the control
third.
three.
He finished third. Randy Johnson, Mike Hampton, Kevin Millwood. Actually, what's weird about those 3 guys, they're all 3s.
Yeah.
That's so true, man.
So
that is like how just because, like, I'll ask you guys, just because you put a lot of these cards together in the stat, like what was determining them to get to that control 3, especially since like all 3 of them were just insanely dominant.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Randy Johnson's. Maybe it was because they're all the same. I mean, they're all 3-18. Well, is Hampton 17?
No, he's 16.
So that's interesting because his whip was higher than the other 2, and his ERA was much higher. He had 2.9 ERA, but like Millwood had 2.68 ERA, Randy Johnson 2.48. And then Randy Johnson's whip 1.02, and then Millwood's was 0.996. So I'm guessing they had a thing where they were like control means whip and ERA means outs or something. I don't know what they did.
I don't even think it was that, because if he had that low of a whip, you would think he would be higher than a 3.
It just depends on which. Remember we talked about this also. A separate thing was when we're talking about a tier 1 guy. Or tier 2 is a control 6, 15 out, right?
Yeah. So he's a tier 2.
Yes, but what is the best tier 2? Is it a 6, 1 through 15 out, or a 5, 1 through 16 out? And if you think it's 5, 1 through 16 out, then when you have the top guys in the tier 2, should those guys go at the control 5, then maybe you go control 4, then you go back to control 6, and your terms of and that's, I don't know if that's what they did.
Right. Well, and that's why I'm curious, because still like 3 is not, you know, you're giving up more charts as a 3. Because to me, like for a whip, you know, I guess if they're going whip and they're like, oh, well, off his own chart, you're not getting hits. But
that's what I don't understand. Like Randy Johnson was so dominant, right?
Yeah.
He won the Cy Young. He had a 2.48 ERA, which is better than Millwood. He had a little bit higher whip. So he gets the no doubles, right? No doubles on his chart. Huge strikeout range, obviously, because he struck out a zillion batters. But I don't understand how they're the same.
Yeah, I tend to award, like, the lower the whip, I give them more control, because you figure they're going to be pitching off their chart more than.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, usually yeah, and that's what you have to. I know that's what you have to try to figure out.
And it's so rare to have a whip below 1 anyways. Like, that's you're controlling a lot.
Right.
That
Like,
would be my opinion.
The only thing I can randomly think of for this team is you got Smoltz as a 6, Maddux as a 5, Glavine as a 4, and they just wanted to be a little different. I don't know.
because he could probably be the 4 with the same chart, or be a 4 and maybe add like a walk-in or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe the 2 singles.
4 out through 17, and then
Right, because I would be way more into that than
there's
3.
no 4 out through 17s in this set.
Yeah, I think they had like strict rules with what they were thinking of. I think
No way.
when they hit this tier
As starters. But then the next year, Kevin Brown was 4 out through 17.
yeah, I
so.
think they started to realize stuff, but because then they had 2s and 1s, they didn't have any
Yeah.
2s and 1s in this. I think they really were like 0s
Just
are shitty
relievers.
pitchers, 3s are awesome, like 5s are great, 4s are in the middle, and Eric Milton's a 6. I have no idea why.
Dude, yeah, Milton's the best card. I feel like the best. He's the starter I would be picking
Well,
out
he's
of every card.
530 and he's a 6, 1 through 15. He's the same tier as this. That's so
Yeah.
strange.
Right,
But you obviously, like, if you're anybody, you want freaking like Pedro. Like that's who you want.
right. That's
He's the
true.
only tier 1, right?
He's a 517 out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Next up, Eddie Perez. Pretty awful catcher here. 6 with a a 6 arm's not too bad, but it's not great. I mean, obviously you want to try to get 7 or higher, but it's I mean slow. I don't really like him.
Right. This is like everything is just slightly below average, and
But
that's why
for
you're
110, there's not a lot of low salary guys. You know, you could drop him in there if you needed a cheap catcher. So I don't know.
Is this a guy that's on MLB Network now?
I don't know that. We can.
Is it Eddie Perez and Eduardo Perez the same person?
I don't know.
No. If it is, I enjoy him on MLB Radio.
It doesn't.
That didn't. Would that give him some extra points here? Maybe, you know, like he's a 21, sports announcer.
Yeah, he's pretty good on there.
I don't think it's him. He coached a little bit, according to Wikipedia, but it doesn't say anything about him doing radio.
Okay. So it must be a different guy.
Okay, next up, Mike Remlinger, an amazing
Oh
card.
boy.
I draft this guy all the time, like John Johnstone, Mike Remlinger. These are great cards, under 200 points for a 6, 1 through 15 out, no doubles.
So good. This is
stud.
You survive the starters, and you got to deal with this guy then.
Yeah.
right for real. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, he
Like,
tore
even
it
if
up
you
for
just-
them. He had
Right.
2.37 ERA.
Wow. Yeah, no, these guys are. I'm telling you, like having any control 6 reliever that like doesn't give up a double or home run, like even with the he's out at 15, which I think the 15 is the key number. No, there's this card's amazing. It's just it's John Johnstone all over again. But to your point, Matt, getting through what their 4th reliever or their 4th starter, Tom Glavine, and still having to face this is just freakish. Like that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not to mention that if you got through him, then you got to face the closer bonus,
Right.
John Rocker.
Right. Moving on to the psycho card.
Yeah.
Who's great. Actually.
Psycho person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He is a complete psycho.
Total psycho. He's
Like we have to plug it immediately. Is go find the video of him flipping off the crowd.
Well, he does that. He has like some racist stuff going on at the end of 99. What was the song he used to play? Was it Hurricane?
the Poison song. I think it might have been.
He rocked me like a hurricane that he played.
Yeah.
And sprint out to the fucking field. This is,
Yeah, he sprinted, right?
yeah, because he's crazy. But this card is fucking awesome.
Right.
You're talking about 5, 1 through 16, no doubles again. So I don't know, when you're playing this team, and you just didn't you, Matt?
I did. Well, they got a first round bye.
Okay, because you have to face the pitchers for 7 innings. Most of those guys, I think 3 of them are 7-inning guys.
Yeah.
And because I think Smoltz is a 6-inning guy, the rest of them are 7-inning guys.
Right.
And for 8-9, we're gonna face Remlinger, John Rocker. Shut them down.
Yeah, dude, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, this card kills, but he's got 200 points, so it's like for 30 points less. Wouldn't you rather have Remlinger? I would.
I have high hopes for the Braves in that tournament you're alluding to, but
no one's going to hit off of them unless like you happen to be rolling 20s.
But that's what we thought, and the Red Sox lost to the Twins. So
right.
Next
That
up
doesn't-
is
elimination.
John
That doesn't
Smoltz.
make any sense.
Eric Milton, he just told
Oh.
Pedro to suck it.
And all those utility guys, you know,
Yeah.
that's what happened. That was the difference.
They literally scored. They had 4 hits to start the game, 4 straight, 3 of them off Pedro's chart. The only one that wasn't was Koski. They scored 2 runs in those 4 hits, and that they won 2-0.
Wow.
Next up, we have the last starter that we haven't talked about is John Smoltz, who does do the ESPN stuff now, I think. And I don't always like his opinions. He's very old school. Sometimes to the point where he dismisses a lot of the new school analytics. I wish he was more like in the middle of it because he was a pretty dominant pitcher. Some of his Cy Young Award maybe weren't earned in my opinion, but he did great. He's a good control 6. He's pretty damn solid.
Right. Hot take for me, and I'm not as much of a baseball expert as you guys, but anybody downplaying baseball analytics that's a pretty poor take in my opinion.
He just kind of has the old school mentality where he'll kind of be like, I don't know, they're thinking too much, and I know they've talked about you could bring a closer whenever, and he goes, there's a different mentality coming in the 9th. And to a part, he's probably right in a little bit, but man, he sort of dismisses it in a way that sometimes I don't like listening to him. Not as much as I don't like listening to Joe Buck, but John Smoltz is probably my second least favorite guy to hear. But he has some cool stories.
I'm enjoying Joe Buck at home announcing what's going on.
Yeah, that's been pretty cool. I will say he's the worst, but him and there's a couple other guys. If you you got to look it up. There's one of 2 dogs, and they're barely fighting. It's like I'm pretty sure it's
in the puddle.
Yeah, it's a soccer, or it's a soccer, like an English soccer or an Australian like rugby announcer, and he's just announcing anything. For anybody who's listening to this in the future, in the post-COVID-19 world, we are amidst the COVID-19 world, so we are looking for anything possible to announce on in terms of sporting activity.
That's why John Boy's doing he can't do the breakdown video, so he's been doing like old World Series matches, and so it's pretty cool.
Oh, it's so great. There's so many of those videos I've never seen before. Like one of the guys, like the catchers, gets his leg broken and still makes the tag like during a game. It's just stuff there's so much of like baseball. I feel like pre like 1994 baseball to me is just such like a haze, because like when I moved to Cleveland in, I think it was 1995, like the Indians were just the best, right? And that's when like baseball just became something to me, and it was just great. And then this game came along in 99, but like 1970s and 80s baseball is just a total haze. So like watching those videos has been pretty cool to kind of get like a slight idea of like what was going on, and it's already fun to watch people fight. So
you want to see a good one, watch the pine tar incident.
Oh, right. Oh, my. Yeah. No, I actually know exactly what you're saying.
That one is just, that to me, like, is like one of the best videos to watch. Like, psycho reactions. Nobody was going the fuck on. Things are just happening. All right. Next up, Walt Weiss.
Walt Weiss. Hell yeah.
So I guess you're getting this guy for his salary for 80 points because not a good shortstop defense here. Just kind of hurts. But
nice for 80. Can I take? I'm going to say a quick Walt Weiss story.
Sure.
So I have an unquestionable love for The Lonely Island. I think that they are just comedic and musical geniuses that just know how to run a joke in every way. And I think if anybody doesn't know, they did a parody of Beyonce's audiovisual Lemonade record, where they did one based on the Athletics Bash Brothers, which is Mark McGuire and Jose Canseco. And it didn't really make sense to me at the time when I was listening to it for the first time, but now that I've listened to it a lot, they have a shout out for Walt Weiss in there, in which Jose Canseco bashes, like doing the actual bashes, he bashes with Walt Weiss and breaks his arm, and then he signs the cast. So this card is just like, that's everything to me. Like, I can't see this card without thinking about like him saying the line, "Sorry about your arm, Walt Weiss." And then Walt Weiss saying it happens. So just go listen to it.
So yeah, he played for Oakland from 87 to 92.
He won Rookie of the Year, I think.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Oh.
He batted we batted 250, but he had 312 on base. That's pretty solid.
Right.
And
for a 6.
Well, yeah, for now. I don't see what I mean, maybe they had a really interesting year that year because he didn't really do anything crazy. I mean, he had 113 hits and batted 250.
What year was it?
1988.
So it was right around like their World Series time. I don't know if they were in it or.
It's just interesting because I don't know.
Oh, me and Peter had a good one the other day. The year Larry Boa won MVP, he's like a 60-point card.
Really?
I'm not joking.
Was it like what year was that?
In the 70s.
Was that just like was anything based on stats back then? Like,
no, it's like your team was really good and they think you're their leader.
Right, MVP, give it to him. Right.
I mean, it was terrible the year that he won it. He won it he finished third in the MVP in 78. He had 5 home runs. He had no home runs and 17 doubles with 11 triples.
What was it? Just the 11 triples? Were people just losing their minds over triples?
316 on base. I mean, I don't know.
What?
He finished third in the MVP that year.
Even if I were third, I would have been like, I'm taking myself out of the race. Like, what in the hell? Like,
so there really was no other player that was even competing with Walt during that season. I mean, he got most of the votes. There was like a pitcher, it looks like, that sort of did okay. He had like a 2.13 ERA, but went 7-5. Just not a lot of things going on. That guy was a reliever, that Brian Harvey, and then there was a pitcher that went 13-7. I mean, all these other batters are just awful.
That explains it.
Yeah. Mark Grace came in second in NL Rookie that year.
Oh, wow.
And Roberto Alomar was 5th that year. Little they know.
Yeah. Shit.
So next up, we got Gerald Williams, 7 8-speed, +1 outfield. Pretty decent. 260, not bad.
Right. He gets attention in our leagues, if I remember correctly.
He's a 7. So, that's the part that hurts, but he's the 8-speed, decent chart, and you get the extra fielding, and he's not going to kill you in the bank.
Right.
So I've seen him get a lot of pick. Now this is a card I absolutely love. I've drafted this guy in some leagues for fun, and I was just mad that he wasn't on the Rockies. So the pennant run version gets him on the Braves, but the big cat.
Oh my God!
I think I have a little action figure up here somewhere of him on the Rockies, but monster 9, 16 home run. He's basically strikeout or homer.
Right, for 5. Like I usually am so hesitant of like any guys over 500, but fuck it, this card is just monstrous, and I'm so in for that. 16 to 20 is just the best. Like,
yeah,
and I'm not a homer guy. Like, it's just that's awesome.
I was say you should. I was trying to Google it real quick while you guys were talking, but he hits this 500 something foot home run in the Rockies, and it is fucking annihilated. I mean, he hits one into like the third deck. There's like no one sitting there. It's a grand slam. They said it went estimated at first at 479, but it was reasonable for 468 is what they said. But he fucking kills this ball. I'll send you guys a little video later of it, but it's
he was a 17 through 20, and then they saw that video and said,
That's why I loved him with the Rockies. I loved like Larry Walker, Dante Bichette, and Andres Galarraga. Those are like my boys.
Right. I just watched it. That wasn't even at Coors. I was in Florida.
Oh, but you see how he fucking kills that ball.
What if you're the pitcher that does that pitch? Like, and I'm sure it was a fastball. Do you just feel like I'm done? Coach, take me out. Like, what the hell? Like,
see ya. Next up, Javy Lopez. So they had a couple of pennant foils here. I mean, Javy Lopez gets drafted a lot. This is where you start to debate. Do you go for an awesome catcher? Because getting the 8 on base here with a big chart is actually a really good move. And actually, I think 370 is not bad.
Oh, I think it's fine. I don't ever go crazy reaching early in the draft on catcher. So I usually just kind of see who's kind of left. And I know, like, I got Wilson Contreras in our 2018 set. And he was less points than this. He was like 280, but he was on base 8, decent chart, maybe +7 arm, like a lot of similarities in a lot of way. I would be so, like, this guy I know in our types of leagues, maybe not in all, would still be around. And I'd be so down to pick him up.
Yeah. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like him.
And I've actually played with this guy a lot too. Was it Kevin McGlinchey or
McGlinchey? Yeah, McGlinchey, I think, right?
Glinchey. Kevin McGlinchey over here. The reason I've drafted this guy is because he's only 100 points.
Yeah.
So he saved me a lot of salary cap for a control 3 that's 1 through 16 out. Not great, but for 100 points, he's been pretty decent in some leagues.
For sure.
Yeah, he's not your main reliever, but he's a good back end bullpen guy.
For sure. Like those middle relievers still are
just
pretty
depends
important.
on how deep your league is, because there's so many good relievers in 2000 that he doesn't get picked up enough. But if you're deep enough, he's pretty solid.
For sure. But that's the thing, is that, like, as long as you have, like, out of our leagues having 5 relievers / 1 or 4 relievers, 1 closer, however you want to do that, I still firmly believe in, like, having those 2 really good relievers, but having, like, some mid-tier guys like this that can, like, if you don't want to use those top 2 guys, like if you're up like 3 or 4 runs, bring them in. Hopefully they don't do too much, like let up too much damage, and then you're fine without using one of the other guys. So I firmly believe in having some of those solid guys, and he kind of falls right into that.
All right, next up, Terry
Mulholland. Mr. Irrelevant.
Mulholland.
Dude, he's their 5th starter.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, like why even make a pennant run card for this guy? Like, he's not getting used on this team.
Right, he's never throwing. Like, they should have, like, whoever the Braves AAA team, like, they should have put that jersey on him. Like, but he's I mean, this card is like,
he's not bad.
It's not bad. I mean, it's
Funny.
funny. It's Maddux with, I mean, looking at least the single and double part, he's Maddux with 1 less control and 1 less inning.
So he had lower ERA than Maddux and Glavine and John Smoltz. But he didn't pitch a lot. He only pitched 60 innings versus their like 200.
Oh, okay.
So that's the reason. So he technically was their 5th starter. I don't know how to pronounce their guys. Odalis Perez or Odalis Perez. He was their 4th or 5th guy, but he kind of didn't have a lot of innings either. And I think they flipped to this guy eventually. I don't know enough about the Braves to know that for a fact, but an average guy. I don't know if I'd pay $330, but he's actually in that range where I like. $320 is like what I like for a guy like this. But
right.
I wish it was like 16 walk instead of the 16 single. I mean, he just
totally agree.
Kills you on the back end.
Yeah, it's 16 single is like just become a no for me.
Yeah. And last up, Reggie Sanders. Another pretty solid card here with an 8 speed for 350. Just like Brian Hunter in a way. And pretty good chart as well. 14 single plus, and again, a little bit weird chart at the end.
He's one of the first that I've noticed whose pennant run card was like a downgrade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's like 470 points his initial card for San Diego.
Oh, I do remember from San Diego.
Because he was a 9 on base.
Yep.
And he went to an 8. I think it might be the same chart. Not 100% sure on that though. But yeah, speed A. I mean,
wow. Yeah, I'm into this card though. Like, I'm that 14 15 single plus is pretty weird. But I'm, I think any type of guy like this, you're getting a lot of things.
They gave him. He's got 1 more out in the San Diego version.
Oh, okay.
So he's got 1 more out, and this one he's got 1 more walk. He's 1 less on base. Everything else is exactly the same.
For 120 points more.
120 points more for the Reggie Sanders. So this is, I think, way more valuable than that, which is a good thing to know when we get to the Padres eventually, to think how overvalued it is. Because his card doesn't look that bad for a 9 for 470, but thinking of this guy just being 1 on base less is a pretty decent value.
For sure. Oh my gosh.
I mean, he's more of one that I could see like in a salary cap league, because you're gonna go get your 400 or 500 point guy, so you need one of these guys.
Yep. Well, that, everyone, is the 2000 Braves, and I hope you guys liked it. And please let us know if there's more teams you want to hear or anything else. I know this one ran a little bit longer than normal. Any closing words, anybody?
Talk to you next time.
No, we'll see you.
All right, chop on, everybody.